All right, man. Happy Thanksgiving week. I am so jacked up. We were so fired up. And you can see my Thanksgiving themed background. I hope y'all can appreciate. Um, yeah, let's get the party started. Hope y'all can appreciate, um, well, hope y'all can be thankful for something. And if you can be thankful for many things, then what a great blessing. Thankful for waking up, given another day, man, another day to serve, another day to make an impact on people, another day to get after it, get up and get going, because God has given us the ability and the talents to serve Him. And man, what a honor that is, huh? Anyway, so thanks for plugging in. As you know, Thanksgiving's Thursday, so we moved our conference call to Tuesday today. So I have no leaderboard for you. So I'm hoping and praying that y'all are going to hammer it. So let me, just quickly, Thanksgiving, great time. I love this time. All my kids are flying in. All my kids. I have 2 kids at home, so 3 are coming in. Picked up my daughter Maddie yesterday with my buddy Will. I'll talk about that in a second. My daughter from going to Maryland College, Maryland Institute College of Art in Baltimore, Maryland. She's a sophomore there. And my daughter Zoe's coming in this morning, flying in from New York. And my son, who is in Utica, is frustrated because he's at work. There's no one around. He's doing nothing. And he wishes he could have flown home today instead of tomorrow. So my son Athen's going to be, he's co-oping up in Utica. And then, so all the kids will be home. So hopefully you're going to be around family and friends and so on. So Thanksgiving is a day. It's not a week. And if you can afford to take off all week, then, man, God bless you. Let's do it. If you can't afford to take off during the week, make no mistake that there are people that are still wanting to sit down with you. Black Friday, tell you what, there are a lot of people that want to get messing with Black Friday. They're doing Black Friday on the phone or on the internet. Okay, so, man, there are people that are going to be available this weekend, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Don't think that you're going to shut down your business because you don't think anyone's going to pick up the phone or willing to book with you. Yeah, you're going to get people to say, call me after the holidays. Well, I mean, okay, let's book for Friday, baby. Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. You can work all the way up to the very end. I know Andrew Peters is rocking it. He's focused on getting the Paris trip. So he is doing everything he can to make it. And he's just working up to the minute, man. I love that. Love that, working up to the minute, because he's got a need. He's got a desire. He's got dreams. He's got goals, man. So we're not in well-doing. Take time off. But, man, let's hit it again. It's not an excuse to be lazy. It's a perfect reason to do what you need to do because of family. So, man, take Thanksgiving Day off. Let's do it. Fired up for that. But then let's hammer it. So, anyway, so that's my commercial for the holidays. So, man, we saw Andy Albright there. Andy put a little leadership, not a little. There's a lot of people there. I think there might have been 30, 40 people in that room. People flying up from flying up from Florida. I saw my buddies in Florida. People in New Jersey flew out there. I saw Dora Wasaki. Guys coming in from from Columbus and all parts of Ohio. Mike Leventovich was there. Down in Louisville. People coming in from Chicago. People are flying in. People come from Alabama. I mean, we just had a whole bunch of people there, okay, special invites or whatever. And Andy flew in. This is our first city to promote the new comp system in January. And oh man, it's off the hook. Now, I know everything about it because Andy and I have been talking about this for the last 2 months, and all the incarnations and the development of it. And man, it is off the chain. I was so fired up. He actually had me up and talking, and I was just very enthusiastic. Let me just say it like that. I was very enthusiastic about it because I believe in it. I believe in it, man. So powerful in what it will do for us and will do for you and for your families. I just cannot even describe it, but I'll try. Not now, not today, but at some future point. Now, if you saw my 642 to $1 million a year last week, that is really the result of what we've been able to do with the new comp program and all the things we are excited about. Okay, so if you want to look that up, look up 642 to $1 million a year. Man, let's get a lot of hits. In fact, a lot of people in that room saw that video, so I was kind of fired up about that. But anyway, what a tremendous opportunity we have in the Alliance. This program, the way that we're doing it, no one's ever done it in the history of life insurance. A lead program. We have a lead program, right, where we meet and find clients, we meet with them, we talk to them, get on the phone, book appointments. We got hundreds of thousands of leads all over the country, literally. If you look at the lead map, all over the country, hundreds of thousands of leads, all types of leads. We have ways to get you in front of a client if you're willing to get on the phone. So we've got 15 insurance carriers that we have to take care of these people that want to sit down with us, right? We've got 15 insurance carriers. We have a culture and a mega training system like no other. I dare say you find anybody that's got the mega amount of formal video training that we have, live training at our hotspot meetings at 90 plus cities around the country, regional boot camps, training means you can fly out to learn from people. You can actually go to one of our top people, like I'm going to talk today, Will Perry's, flew down to Florida to ride with Brandt Swindle for a day. And Brandt Swindle, one of our top agents in the country, was willing to give of his time, give of his talent to Will, so Will can learn how to become better. Hitting some roadblocks, Will said, man, I'm going to go out and I'm going to get around Brandt. So Jason Tani Carey, his upline, flew him down there, spent time with Brandt, and man, so I told you the story last week, but I want you to hear it straight from the horse's mouth. I invited Will to be a guest on our call, and so we've got the training, we've got the culture that will encourage you, uplift you, support you. When you're feeling bad, we've got a culture that will wrap our arms around you to tell you that everything's going to be okay. We're going to help you. We're going to guide you. We're going to show you how to do this so you can make money for your families, right? So we've got that culture. I think we've got an anointing, honestly, that's just things that have happened is just amazing to me. I think God's hand is on our business. And then we have this awesome multi-tier pay system, MTPS, a multi-tier pay system that is just off the hook. It doesn't exist. It exists in insurance for sure, but it doesn't exist along with the lead program to get you in front of clients. It's out of this world. Then we have mega profitable products that's got high value called Index Universal Life, which Andy Albright's put together some training meetings on how to really dig into it and sell it. And I already have a video on it. And I knew this is coming. And this is a high value product where your premiums are going to double, literally double. We have an ERS program that'll get you 10 to 15 referrals where the client gives you permission to talk to their people, and you text them a text that they can send out to their folks telling them that you're going to call. And we've got people that have weaned themselves off the lead program, right? We have a green sheet annuity process where you're going to sit down out of 10 to 15 sales, you're going to find annuity money. The average annuity is running about $50,000, $60,000. You can make $3-4 grand, and you don't have to know much about annuities other than referring it in to our central office, BAM, okay, Burlington Capital Management, okay. It is capital asset management. We call it BAM, the C is silent. We've got all these tools, all these companies, all this support that doesn't exist anywhere except here, the Alliance, right? You've got to know what you have your hands on so you can take advantage of every bit that we have for you. You got to squeeze the juice out of the orange, man. We've got the orange. You got to squeeze every drop out because it's designed to be mega profitable beyond what anyone else out there, honestly, in the insurance business is doing. We are revolutionizing it. I know people have said that, revolutionizing this and that. No, seriously, this did not exist anywhere. No one has this. We've got the secret that we're sharing with all of you. Now, man, let's use it. Let's run with it, gang. Oh, my. So Andy invited me to come to Dallas with him. I don't know. It's, you know, when you set something on fire, people want to watch it burn. So I am on fire for sure. But it was great hanging out with Andy. We had time in his room after everything in the late evening. He took us out to dinner to this Izzy and Dave's and Izzy in downtown Indianapolis. The food was off the hook. He bought dinner for everybody. It was he had a choice of filet mignon, was awesome. Salmon, chicken. I mean, it was just crazy. And then the association was just incredible. So anyway, I'm gushing because I had a chance to spend time with my buddy Will. Will asked, hey, can I ride with you? And I said, yeah, absolutely, dude. Love to have you come hop in the car with us. I said, but afterwards, we're going to have to go pick up my daughter in Cincinnati Airport, which is about an hour and 45 minutes away, and then come back home. And he said, fine with me, man. And it was just so cool hanging out with Will, getting to know him, his wife, Sonia, about his wife, Sonia, his 4 kids. Man, it's really cool. So it was cool hanging out with Will. And that's who we have on our call today. Will spent time with Brandt, like I said, and I want to share him with you because he shared what his experience was with Brandt at the Cincinnati Hotspot meeting and just so many insights, so many awesome insights. So I want to bring Will on and get this party started. So let me... there he is, man, the myth, the legend. Let me see if I can unmute Will.
I'm already unmuted if you can hear me.
Oh, awesome, dude. All right, man. You look like you're in the space shuttle come from Houston. You got that little delay thing going on. Anyway, Will's my buddy. Will Perry's place in the Cincinnati meeting. He's been a friend of mine since he got in. I showed him the plan, and I was honored to show him the plan, and he just sat there like staring at me like, I mean, I didn't know what was going on in his head. He comes in, and it's like, man, handsome black dude. And oh, man. He was sitting there kind of in his jeans looking really cool. And it just like a really cool dude, you know. He's just one of those guys like, man, I want to be like him when I grow up. And he was sitting there. I remember, wow. Will, when I was showing the plan, you were like right there. You were like to my right as I looked at you were kind of sitting in that one chair. I felt like I was talking to you. Like we might have a few guests in there, but I felt like I was talking to you, man, because he was like absorbing it. So anyway, he got in, and then he's, well, I'll let you tell your story, dude. And I want you to talk about how you got in, what you did to kind of, as you started believing in this more, the stuff that you did, because he's a business owner, and then the decisions you made. And then we'll talk about hanging out with Brandt. So, man, I give you Will Perry's. Rock and roll, dude.
Nice. Awesome, Alex. Well, I tell you what, I had a ball with you and Jenny last night and picking up your daughter, Maddie, at the airport. And it was funny because Alex is like, hey, like if you can't get a ride home, then feel free to go with us to the airport, but we're not going to get home till like 3 a.m. It's going to be an all-night party. And I was like, you know what? I don't even care, because if I can hang out with you, like it was like a Q&A on the way to the airport last night. Wasn't it, Alex?
Yeah, it was.
It was like, I mean, was like peeling the layers away of you and just trying to get down to the juice. Like, hey man, like tell me.
Well, you know, my voice was so hoarse. Like it's starting to get hoarse now. But by the end of the night, my voice was so hoarse. I mean, I had to take a nap. And then Will was talking to Jenny and getting into Jenny. I just had to take a nap on the car. But, oh man, he just squeezed me, man. He squeezed me.
Yeah. And I recorded it all. So I'm the guy that got away with the secrets. But
hey, did you record the meeting, the Indianapolis meeting?
I recorded some of it. Yeah.
Okay.
I recorded your part.
I want to hear what I
Some of
said.
Andy.
I don't remember everything I said. So if you can get that to me, I'd appreciate it.
Yeah, I'll shoot it over.
Okay, thanks.
But
Steve.
you guys, my name is Will Perez. I was hired into the business about 1.5 years ago by Tim Raven in Chicago, and we're part of the Jason and Tiny Carey agency. And I've been full time for about 4 months now. And I got into the business, like Alex said. I responded to a Craigslist ad, and it wasn't that my business was like struggling at all. It was doing well. I just knew like it wasn't made for me. So I owned an irrigation business for 10 years, and we did in-ground line and sprinkler systems. And I just couldn't find people who wanted to work. I couldn't scale the system, the business to where I needed it to be. Like I really got in the business and wanted to own a business because I didn't want any kind of lid on what I could make. And I wanted unlimited potential. But what I ended up finding out was that as the business grew, we got to like 12 employees, and that restraint started to come from the bottom of my business. It was like it didn't matter what my dream or vision was, how big I wanted it to go. It was like from the bottom, the employees really started to dictate my income. And the reason is because, you know, it relied around them coming into work every day, being there on time. There were all these aspects that I just never thought would restrict me. So I started to search for something else. And I responded to a Craigslist ad, and a guy by the name of Tim Raven in Chicago said, hey, you know, where are you located? I said, I'm down in Dayton. And he said, there's a guy in Centerville, and I'm pretty sure he's made close to $1 million a year. And I said, what? Like right here in Dayton, Ohio? Are you serious? And he said, yeah, go over and see him. And Tuesday we'll have a meeting, and he'll tell you what we do. So that was like the game changer, because I had spoke to all types of different companies. I had already found life insurance and found out that, hey, people are making a lot of money and there's a lot of good opportunity in it. So I decided to go ahead and go over and see Alex. And I went over to the op meeting, and just like he said, I sat down, and there's no guard. Like I had no guard up. It was just that it was so intriguing. Like the business to me was like so captivating, because it was like nothing I had ever seen before. And when I saw it and Alex explained it to me, it was truly like, he says that he felt as if he was talking to me. Like I felt as if he was talking to me. And when the meeting was done, he's like, so dude, what do you think? And I was like, I think I'm in. So it was like a no-brainer. Like once I saw it, it was a no-brainer. And then actually after the meeting, I don't even know if you remember this, Alex, but after the meeting, hey, Chloe, after the meeting, I ended up going into your office. You're like, hey, come here, let me show you something. And we go into Alex's office, and he starts pulling out these check stubs. It was like these bonuses. And it was like 20,000, 8,000, 40,000, 30,000, 20,000, 30,000. And I'm like, what are these? Like a yearly bonus? And he's like, dude, these are a month sometimes. And I was like, oh, like it's on. I'm in. It's over. So the whole first year, like I was trying to relocate my employees and get them into a good position, because like I wanted to shut my business down immediately. And but I knew I couldn't do that. So I took my employees, got them into a better position. I thought I could do it very quickly, but it ended up taking me about uh, ultimately about a year and a half to get out of that. Look at those bonus checks. Look, I'm telling you, those are 20,000, 30,000. But it ended up taking, what's that say right there?
17 something.
There it is. He was showing me those checks, and I was like, oh yeah, it's going down. And but it ended up taking me a long time to get out. It took me about a year and a half to end up getting out of my business, and I shut the business down in June. July went full time, and I think in the month of July I ended up writing right around like maybe 20,000. I put in about 20,000, and then in August I wrote about 29,000, and we just been rocking ever since. So, but Jason and Tani, like the great thing about this business, and I just had a ball. I mean, I'm so grateful to Alex, because when I got the invite to the meeting last night in Indianapolis, I text Alex first and I said, hey, you going out to Indy? And he's like, yeah. I'm like, can I tag along? And he's like, of course. So it's kind of different in the alliance, like when you go into a meeting by yourself versus when you go into a meeting with Alex Abuyuan, because it's just so cool that like in Cincinnati and Dayton, we've got the privilege to like hang with Alex and Patrick Connors on a weekly basis. And Alex has become one of my closest buddies and mentors. And I'm just always digging in for information. So it was awesome because like there were about, I think there were about 30 or 40 people last night at the meeting. But the great thing about the alliance is if you start to associate with people, like if you go to the meetings, you go to all the conferences, you go to the hot spot, you get on all the calls, like you start to work into the system, and the system will start to work into you. So like what was great about it is I already knew everybody that was in the meeting. And this is like the top leadership in the alliance. Like we get out of the car, we go to the airport, we pick Andy up, and we pick Andy up, and it was awesome because like we drove straight into the airport, and everybody piles off the plane, and everybody's just giving hugs and, hey man, it's awesome to see you. Andy gets off. Will, I'm so glad you could make it. Like, I'm going to blow your mind tonight. He was just excited about what was going on last night. And I thought that I was excited about the opportunity in the beginning. But, man, like after last night and Alex having a moment where, I mean, he was just totally excited about what was going on. And after seeing where our company is going right now, like I got into the business originally because when I looked at it, I believed in Alex. I got the chance to meet Jason and Tani. I believed in Jason and Tani, and then I met Andy, and I believed in Andy. So believing in the people made me believe in the system. And the system that I saw laid out last night, like for us to have this opportunity is a dream. Like I got into the alliance because I knew getting into it, it was a baby. I looked at other companies, and I looked at the size of those companies, and I looked at the people, how many people were in the business. And then I looked at the alliance, and I was like, oh my God, like this thing is just a baby. It's 10% of Andy's dream. And if there's anybody who is going to capitalize and make their dreams happen, it's Andy Albright. So when I saw it last night, it reiterated the fact that, hey, like we are at the right place at the right time for purpose. Like I don't know why you got into the business. I don't know how you got here, but I know that everybody that's in it right now is in it for a reason. And this thing is about to go crazy, insane. Like, it's going to get wild. And last night just reiterated that fact. But by pouring into the system and associating, what ended up happening last night was a result of pretty much just the effort and energy that I've put into it, and Jason and Tani Carey have put back into me.
Sassy's Cafe out there on 729 at the crossroads, Dam River. Okay. Yeah.
Well, hold on, Will.
Come back and look. All right, hold on.
Okay, unmute yourself now. Yeah, it's getting noise. Yeah, I got you. Yeah, I got you. Okay, cool. Thanks.
Okay. So since I've gotten into the business, you know, I've done nothing but leaned in, going to all the meetings, tried to pick up everything I can, just try to grow, try to improve, try to get better. And in doing that, you know, Jason and Tani Carey have really put me in the right place at the right time. And it was everything from going to the meeting last night to getting around Andy Moore at our conventions, to Jason and Tani flying out to Cincinnati 2 separate times just to come out and spend time with my family and get to know us more. And a couple weeks ago, they called me and they said, hey, is there any way November 8th and 9th, like we called in a favor from a buddy of ours, is there any way November 8th and 9th that you can fly down to Jacksonville and spend a few days with Brandt Swindle? And I was like, let me think about that. Of course. So if you guys don't know, Brandt Swindle is like, I call him a 28-year-old Jedi master. Like, the guy, in the month of July, the guy made, I think he told me it was $68,000. Like, he made in the month of July what some people make in 3 years. And it was the 40,000 cash that we all saw him get on stage. Plus he had about 30,000 in commissions because he wrote over 50 grand that month in order to win the contest, come in second. Plus he recruited about 8 people that month. So it was like, to get around this guy, I mean, it's gold. So if you guys are going to NatCon, let me just say this. Like, find Brandt, introduce yourself, and sit around him. Like, if you got a meal ticket, get around him, because he drops nuggets that you got to pick up and put in your bank. And so she's like, hey, can you go down to Jacksonville and hang out with Brandt Swindle? We're gonna fly you down. We're gonna put you up in a hotel, and then we're gonna also fly you back. So I was like, of course.
Can you swipe it from the top? Leave. There you go. Okay. Leave.
Wow, hold on.
Okay. I think you're good.
Okay.
All right. So I end up, you know, I fly down to Jacksonville, and I'm just over the moon. You know, it was almost like Alex letting me hang with him last night. It's like these little things that people do that you're just so grateful for, and like you want to repay them. And the only way that I can repay Alex and Jason and Tani for everything they're pouring in is by pouring it out. You know, I've got to be a river and not a dam. So all this information that they're pouring into me, like, I dump it out into my agents, I dump it out into everybody I can, and I'm honored to be on the call because now I get to dump it out into you guys. And the thing about Brandt is like, this guy, I don't think I've ever been around somebody that is so, like, calm spirited. And when you think of Andy Albright, I mean, this guy has embodied everything that Andy Albright talks about on a high level. Okay. Like there's times when we will go to a meeting with Andy and he's doing a boot camp, and I don't know if you guys have done this yet, or even when he's on stage, but everything that Andy does is very intentional. And if you overlook it, then it's going to go directly over your head. Okay. And everything that I've ever seen Andy do, Brandt Swindle does on a very high level. But what he does is he takes the teaching and coaching that Andy is given out, and he applies it into our sales system, and he applies it into his agents, and it's excuse me, but it's just amazing to see. So I show up, I fly in Wednesday, and Thursday I get up and go over to Alliance Jacks. And I don't know if any of you guys have ever been there, but like I see you guys right now. I see a few of you guys. I see James. I see Joy. And I see all these names. But like I'm looking at you guys in your own home office, in your mobile office, and we're all out doing this business on our own, and we're all just trying to make it work the best we can. You go to Alliance Jacks and you see this business on a whole other level. It's like Alex, like my desk is behind me. This guy's got a green screen with a pumpkin. I mean, it's like next level business. So like that's where Alliance Jacks is, it's next level business. So he texts me and he's like, hey, we're in Suite 200. Come on in. And, you know, in my head, for some reason, I just had this picture of like, okay, Brandt is really starting to take off. He's going to be in this little office by himself, and I'm going to have to go inside and find it. And he's like, yeah, it's Suite 200. Well, when I get there, I didn't realize that Suite 200 was the whole second floor of a building. So I go in, and it's like Chris Long, Brandt Swindle, Andy Riddle, and they've got like 10 staff, all these rooms, all these awesome posters. And it was like a dream. It was like a dream office. Like it really was. But it showed a whole other aspect of the business that we can all go to. So the first thing I'm like, man, I want one of these. Like, that was my first thought. Like, I want one of these. Like, I'm going to get the business to the point where I said something to Alex last night. I'm like, look, we need like a Ohio Midwest. Like, we need one of these, like top floor of the Key Bank building, downtown Dayton. Like, let's go ahead and do it. So I end up hanging with Brandt, and he was doing the product call. I don't know if you guys were able to catch the product call last week. Was it? Yeah, it was last week. But he was talking about connecting. And what I saw from him, and it's the same thing that Andy speaks about nonstop. He's talking about it right now. I think he's saying connection is the lubrication. Communication is the lubrication to business. And it's the same thing that Brandt was talking about. But I was very intrigued because when Brandt started the product call, you know, a lot of times we think that these guys are just on another level and that they come up with everything that they're saying. And when it comes down to it, like our whole system works on duplication, edification, and just getting around the heat and studying. And they always say it's caught, not taught. Okay. And the way that he was preparing for the call, he was in books. He was online. He was in the Circle of You. He was in 8 Steps to Success. Like he was duplicating our system and edifying it on a higher level. Like nothing that he was saying just came out of thin air. Like it was all passed down from one person to the next person to Brandt, who let it flow down to all of us. And he was talking about connecting. And he said that like connection doesn't happen by any kind of formula. Like it actually is more about like the awareness and your maturity level is your ability to put others first. So when he was on the phone and he started to make his dials, like to begin with, before he dialed, he prayed over his leads. And he just prayed, God, like, let these people accept into their heart who I am and what I'm calling for. Like, give me the clarity and understanding to go deeper into them and truly understand why I'm calling them today so that we can connect on a higher level. So he prayed over his leads, which blew me away. And when he started to make his dials, I said, hey, how many dials are you going to make? Because the day before, he's like, I'm going to start dialing about 2:30, or Saturday before I came down. He's like, yeah, Thursday we'll start dialing around 2:30. It should be nothing to book 12 appointments. And I was like, okay. Because it was like this level of confidence. It's like, well, I'm not going to dial till the evening, and we're going to book 12 appointments and run all day Friday. I'm like, okay, like, if you say so, Brandt, like, you're the man. So when we got there, I said, hey, how many dials do you make on a weekly basis? And he's like, what do you mean? I'm like, dials, like haystacks. How many dials do you make? And he's like, I don't count my dials. I'm like, what? Like, you don't know how many dials you make? He's like, man, I count my appointments. Like, if you're counting your appointments, it really doesn't matter how many dials you make. Because when he said we're gonna book 12 appointments, like, it didn't matter how many dials it took to book 12 appointments. He was just going to dial until we had 12 appointments. And I tell you what, he did. So it was like unbelievable to watch him maneuver on the phone. But the biggest thing was like the connecting part. Okay, so he did a great job of this over the phone. He started to build that bond and rapport over the phone. Okay, it wasn't like very robotic. And the one thing about going down there is I noticed there were levels to the game, right? Like, there's this rookie level that we all come in on, and we're all trying to figure it out, and we're all trying to not get hung up on, and we're all trying to book an appointment. So we're trying to play here. But when you get to a certain point, you got to play here. And Brandt is playing up here. And when he's making his dials, his phone script, it goes a little bit like, hey, this is Brandt. I'm getting back to you from the Family Benefits Center about this phone call we received, and you gave us the code word peaches. Do you remember that? And they're like, yeah, peaches. And immediately, as soon as they say something, he says something. He gives them no time to say anything else. He's in control of the conversation the entire time. There's no pauses. There's no breaks. So as soon as somebody says peaches, he's like, oh, that's awesome. Do you like that kind of pie, or do those just grow on the tree outside? Which one? And they're like, like immediately giggling, and they're loose. And when somebody giggles and laughs over the phone, like it means that they trust you. Like, if you're able to get them to that point that quick, then you're building bond and rapport. And he goes on in his phone script. He's like, hey, let me explain how this works. Like, the state of Ohio does require me to come out and just verify ID. Like, just make sure you are who you say you are. And then also they want to make sure that you're not hooked up to any kind of life support. And it doesn't sound like you are, but I mean, are you? Are you hooked up to life support? And they just start giggling like, oh my God, like, no, I'm not hooked up to life support. And immediately, I mean, again, there's no thought. Immediately, he's like, oh, well, that's awesome. Well, we should be quick then. Are you guys still working, or are you retired? And they go into it, well, I'm retired, because half of the state of Florida is retired. I noticed that also. But he said, hey, I'm retired. That's awesome. Like, how long have you been retired? And they're like, man, I've been retired 2 years now. Unbelievable. So are you like golfing? Like, how do you spend your time? And he's just building this bond and rapport, like, over the phone that I've never seen before, because when we're dialing, like, we're just like, oh my God, don't hang up. Like, just tell me what I need to know. Don't hang up the phone. And he's just like so confident. There's this level of confidence that he has, and this awareness of what the other person, where they're at in the conversation. Like, he knew when he can push to build bond and rapport, and he knew when he needed to pull away and book the appointment. And it was incredible to watch. So he would build some bond and rapport, and then he'd say, okay, look, like, they've got me down in your area to drop this stuff off to a few families. And my real job is really just to let you know what you're eligible for and see if there's anything that you would qualify for. And he just did it so simply. And that's not exactly what he said. Let me see. I've got it written down here. See if I can find it just real quickly. Because the way he said it, it was so smooth, the transition. It was like, my job is really just to see what you qualify for and see what programs are available to you. And he always said, hey, write down this number. Here's a verification number. My boss wants me to give that to you. And then take down my name, walk me to your house. So he had him walk him to the house. And it was just a whole other level of phone calls. So the next day, we go out. Oh, another thing he did on the phone, Alex, I don't think I even said this, but he was mirror matching people.
Yeah.
Without even knowing it. Because he got off one lady answered the phone, hello? And he's like, Heather? Like, immediately mirror matched her energy and her excitement. And she's like, yeah? Hey, this is Brandt, and I'm getting back to you. Like, and I said, are you mirror matching her on purpose? He was like, oh, did I? I was like, yeah, you did. Like, immediately. And he was like, oh, I didn't even know. So it's everything that we're taught, he's just mastered. But we go out to the appointments the next day, and it's one thing I found in this business, Alex, is that when I got in, I had this list of things I didn't want to do, right? It was like, well, I don't want to dial in the evenings. Like, that's my family time. It's like, I don't want to run appointments an hour and a half away or 3 hours away. You know, it was like, I don't want to do an overnight trip. I don't want to. And what I've come to learn is it's like everything that I don't want to do is now what I push myself to do to get where I want to be. Does that make sense?
Yep. Absolutely.
It's like the stuff that made me uncomfortable in the beginning is the stuff that now is within my comfort zone because I've stretched that rubber band to the point that it won't go back. And so, like, the stuff that Brandt does is like the stuff that all of us fight ourselves on. Because when you're getting out of a car and you hear Bill Cook, who's writing $475,000 a year on his own pen, say, when you get out of the car, wave at the house, because people are waiting on you and they see you. And we don't wave at the house when we get out of the car. Like, you're only fooling yourself. And Brandt would get out of every car and he would wave at the house. He's like, wave at the house. We wave at the house. He's like, smile. We smile. And then he did something that was just drop jaw crazy to me. Like, as we approached the front door of one house, he like screamed into the house. Like, he didn't even knock on the door. He like yells into the house like, Debbie, Debbie. And she yells from inside like, yeah, who is it? And he's like, it's Brandt. And it's like these little things. And again, like I said, when you sit around Andy Albright, there's so much that he does that will just go over the top of your head if you're not paying attention. and being very intentional on what you're trying to figure out. And if I hadn't have ran so many appointments now, then that interaction would have went over my head. But if you think about it, like if you approach your sister's house and you don't know if she's home and you don't know if she's in the backyard and you're walking around the back of the house and you yell her name, that's how he yelled this Debbie's name. And it was just that familiarity to Debbie saying, hey, it was something like inside, she's like, hey, like this guy must know me. It was just that next level of bond and rapport. So
he prays
we went into a lot of homes.
Too. Doesn't he pray before
What'd
his
you say?
Doesn't he pray before his appointment?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that was another thing. You know, before we left the house that morning, me, him, Angelica, and their baby boy, Brightman, like we held hands and prayed over the day. And he just prayed for clarity, and he thanked God that I was down and was able to ride with him and spend time with him and his family. And he asked that everybody that we went out to see that day be in a good mood, be in a position to accept what he had to say, and really open their heart up so that he could help them. And before each appointment, like I know when I'm booking a day and it's 8 to 12 appointments, like I am in go mode to the point that I don't even eat. And Brandt would stop before every single appointment, and he would shake himself off. You know, he would literally shake himself off, brush his face off, and breathe in, breathe out. And then he would take a moment to pray to clear his mind, clear his heart, clear everything out so that he could totally focus on this client and help them. And that just blew me away the whole time I was there, because like I'm a believer, and a lot of times it's hard for me to squeeze in 1 to 2 prayers a day. Like Brandt was literally in deep meditation praying probably 10 times that day from the beginning to the end of the day, because we ended the day at his house having supper and just kicking back and having a good time. But before every appointment, he prayed, he cleared his mind, and he went in there with this laser focus that it was like, oh my gosh, like it just blew me away, because it showed me that every single thing that this guy does is intentional and for purpose. And I know one thing, Alex, about purpose is like there's a huge definition. You can do a talk on it, but if you're doing it on purpose, then it means it's for a purpose. And everything that Brandt does is on purpose because it's a part of a bigger vision and a bigger purpose. So we go into this home, and I'll just tell you the one house. The real key to this that Brandt is doing is he's connecting. He's connecting with these clients on a different level. The bond and rapport is massive, and he never focused on how long it took to develop. Because we went into one home of a current client who had just got a divorce, and he said, look, if she doesn't open up and tell us about the divorce, then we're not going to be able to help her. So number one goal is to get her to open up about the divorce. Like, it wasn't to figure out how much money they could afford. It wasn't to figure out, what medications she was on. Like, that was a byproduct. That was loud.
Yeah.
But all that was a byproduct of bond and rapport. And one house, it took an hour and a half to develop. One house, it took 20 minutes. One house we about got thrown out of, and he was going on 45 minutes, and it just never happened. But he really took time to develop that bond and rapport. And once he was able to get the woman to open up about the divorce, every time she went into the fact she had an accidental policy, she said because of the divorce she couldn't afford it. But she wanted something that would really pay off no matter what if she died of natural causes. So every time she went into the fact that, hey, I can't afford this, I don't want it, Brandt just changed the subject. And she was like a massage therapist. And I mean, literally, she would say, like, yeah, I don't think I can afford that. And he's like, oh my God, my back is so tight right now. Like, what do you do for people that have a tight back like this? And she would just totally, it was like a massive pattern interrupt. And he would just keep going. And then she would say, yeah, I really called you over here because I need to get rid of this policy. I just can't afford it. And he's like, oh my God, I'm so serious. My neck is so stiff. Like, I don't know if it's because of driving or what. And it was just naturally breaking this lady down to where she liked him to the point that he finally said, so Jack is gone. And she was like, yeah, he is. And, you know, I can't believe that he left me. And she just opened up like a book. And as soon as he was able to open up and get her to talk about the divorce, then it put him in a position to be able to really talk to her about what she wanted, which was she really wanted to make sure that if she passed away, then her family was taken care of, no matter if it was a natural death or an accident. And once he was able to get to that point with the bond and rapport, then he was able to open the door up to now really discuss the insurance coverage. Because before he did that, she was so guarded. She was like, no, like, I don't want the coverage. Don't talk to me about insurance. And then she opened up. And once she opened up, Brandt was just able to say, look, well, it really looks like what you're trying to do is make sure if anything happened at all, then your daughter would be able to take care of this for you. Is that what you were looking for? And she was like, yeah, it is. And he's like, okay, well, look, like, I know how important this is, and I don't know if there's anything else that we can get rid of to make this important. And she was like, well, I guess I could stop going out to girls' night with my friends because that's pretty expensive. And he was like, you know, I don't know what you need to do, but I do know that your daughter loves you a lot and you love her and you want her to be protected. And she's like, yeah, let's go ahead and do it. But it was through 50 minutes of talking about the massage chair and rub my neck and rub my back and what's acupuncture do, and just building this bond and rapport with her to the point that he was able to really just talk to her on a not a sales level, but on a friend level and say, hey, look, like what do you really want? Like, what am I here for? And every home that we went into, at the end of the day, he had 9 applications, and it was like $4,300 in premium. And we went into another home, and this is the last story. I know we're pushing tight on time.
That's all right. Keep going.
But we went into another home, and it was unbelievable. It's like we think of ourselves, or other people think of us as salespeople. And the truth about it is we're really not. Like, we're not selling people knives. We're not selling people cups. We're not selling people sandpaper. Like, we're selling protection on families. And you know what? If I've got to get you to understand how important it is that if something happened to you, then your family needs to be protected, then, like, that's the only sales portion of what we do. Everything else that we do is we help families. Like, we figure out what would happen to the family. And when you really start to play the game at Brandt's level, it becomes a part of who you are. And it's no longer a job. You know, the thing about the alliance that I've realized extremely in the past probably 4 months since I went full time and spent more time with you, Alex, and Connie and Carrie and Tony and Jason, and spent a lot of time with Andy. Like, the thing about this company is it's not about what we do. Like, it's about who we're becoming. and it's about who we are. And Brandt embodies who we are on a higher level. So we went into this home, the one that he yelled at Debbie across the door. And he went into this home, and when we go in the door, we walk past Debbie. And on the table or on the couch to the right of us is a 14-year-old boy. And there was a wheelchair outside, so we knew somebody in the house was disabled. And we go into the door, and on this couch is this boy, and he's under a blanket, and like you can tell something's going on with him, like maybe autism or maybe something is going on. His legs, he's definitely crippled, and his legs are like under the blanket, tucked up beside him, and he's rocking back and forth. And without hesitation, like Brandt says, "Hey, Debbie," shakes her hand. "Hey, this is my buddy Will." As I'm shaking Debbie's hand, Brandt immediately went over to the boy, and he's like, "Hey, man," he's like, "What's up, buddy? How you doing?" And he held out his fist, and he's like, "Hey, hit the rock, buddy, pound it." And the kid pounds his fist. And then Brandt comes over and sits on the couch opposite of him, and I sit down next to Brandt. And this kid pushes the table away. He like sets his drink down, and he pushes the table away from himself, and he crawls down onto the floor. And he started to crawl over to Brandt. And he gets over to Brandt, and Brandt like scoots over on the couch, and he's like, "Hey, man," he's like, "You want to sit up here with me while we talk?" He's like, "Come on up here." So the kid climbs up on the couch next to Brandt, and turns around, and Brandt's like, "Hey, man, like, we're going to have a good time while we're here. Pound the rock." And the kid pounds his rock again. And like, I'm sitting here looking at this, and it made me wonder. I'm like, I wonder how many people have come into this home and not acknowledged this kid, or, you know, not referenced him, or just not made the kid feel like he was wanted or a part of something. And it's just who Brandt is. Like, it's who he's become. It's a higher level of what we do, to the point that he knew immediately when he walked in the house and saw that kid that this was the reason why he was there. Like, he knew that grandmother, it was so important to that grandmother. That's the reason she called us, was because if anything happened to her, she was scared to death that her grandson would end up in a home. And as soon as Brandt walked in the house, he knew why he was there, and that's where his attention went. It was like, to the point where when we got done and we actually got down to business, he said, "Hey, I see that your grandsons you're their sole provider. Like, I understand this is very important to you. Is this why you called us?" And she was like, "Yes. Like, if anything happens to me, these boys need a home." And it just blew me away on a whole another level, and really, really showed me, like, it showed me why we do what we do, but better yet, it showed me how we do it. And I flew back home Saturday evening, and Sunday was my son's birthday, and I had never done an overnight run before. And before I left, I had already planned it, but I went up to an area outside of Cleveland, and I had about 13 appointments booked. And I went up Tuesday night, and we did the hotspot meeting, had about 6 or 7 guests out. I showed the plan. And over those next 2 days, I wrote 19 applications, just on what Brandt does. It was 19 applications in 2 days, just building that connection, really understanding why I was in the house, and trying to figure that aspect out. But Alex, is that helpful?
Yeah, tell him how he does his thing with the grandpa or the mama, or like when he gets into a home and then he kind of gets to know them, like the questions he asks them and then leads to telling about his grandfather's story.
Okay. So again, going back to connecting, what Alex is talking about is when he goes into a home, it's very routine. It's the same exact thing every time he goes into the home. And what he does is when he goes in, he connects with them and he says, hey, hey, Bob and Mary, like, do you guys have any grandkids? You know, how many kids do you have? And they're like, oh, we've got 2. And he's like, any grandchildren? Oh, yeah, I've got 4 grandkids. And he's like, okay, well, tell me their names. And they start to tell him the names. And it's like, well, okay, well, Judy, so Judy's 9. And he holds his hand up like this and he says, well, Judy's 9. And Levi is 6, right? So Judy, Levi, and he repeats the names until he remembers their names. And then he says, okay, well, what do you call them? Or what do they call you? And if they say Pappy, then when he leads into his story on his ATM, he's like, oh, that's what we called my grandpa's Pappy. I mean, it could be whatever their grandchildren call them. That's what he called his grandparent, just to connect on a deeper level. It could be one home was Paul and Mammy. Oh, you know what? We called my grandfather Paul. And then he leads into the story on how his grandfather was riding his bike and fell off and hit his head and passed away. But he builds on that connection with the grandparents. And then when he shows his prices at the end, he includes the children's policies into it as value. So he builds this connection. He asks them about their grandchildren. What do the grandchildren call you? And then he connects the dots with him and their grandchildren and shows a picture of him with his grandfather. And then before he shows the quotes, he's like, well, now I know like a little bit about your grandchildren and how important it is that you leave a legacy for them. And everybody wants to leave a legacy for their grandchildren. Like everybody would love to leave something behind. And he just builds on that, but it also connects them on a different level because he's really touching on something that they love and really cherish. And
he's memorized
again, the way that he does it.
He memorized their names.
What's that?
He brings their names back into later in the sale because he's memorized the names of the grandkids, and then he pops their names out again, doesn't he?
He does, and he brings it back. And I said, even when we left a couple homes, I said, it's incredible that I said, I need to learn how to remember people's names because I'm really bad at it. And he said, man, look, I never knew that remembering somebody's name, like having the skill to remember people's name, would make me $250,000 a year. Because that's what he, like, remembering their names and bringing it back up at the end is how he makes his money, is that connecting on a higher level.
Well, dude, that was rocking. That was off the hook, man. Appreciate you. Thanks, Will, for letting us do this thing with you. And that was awesome. Brandt does it. He just really drills in questions with the people and gets to find out about them and about their grandchildren and he goes deep. He drills deep into that relationship that they have with their kids and their grandkids. And that's how he builds value in the home, what it is they're trying to do. Connects on a very deeper emotional level with people and spends the time doing it, right? So anyway, so we're done. I'm fired up. Actually, I got to run real quick. So anyway, rock on. Thanks, Will. You were awesome. Hey, man, let's do this thing.